So just some quick background before we get into this study. Roughly 20% of all Americans suffer some type of mental health disorder, with that being around 1% for anorexia, 7% for depression, and then around 1% for schizophrenia. Because this is such a prevalent problem, and it's something that I've noticed just in my peer group and etc., I really wanted to study this because it is something that we deal with, but it's something that's kind of swept under the rug, and it's something that's stigmatized in our everyday life. So importance of early intervention. Early intervention, just in case you don't know, is being able to recognize that someone else is suffering from a mental health disorder and then helping them get the help that they need before it becomes a larger issue. So this would be maybe helping someone with schizophrenia get into an inpatient treatment, or maybe recommending lifestyle changes for someone with depression. But this is definitely something that changes for every single disorder. It's not something that like one thing works for everyone. So researchers know that earlier intervention helps, and they know that it does something good. However, researchers have no idea who is more likely to intervene and what the profile for that person actually looks like. So would knowledge matter? Would perceptions matter? So that's kind of what I wanted to tackle. So the importance of the current study. We wanted to figure out what characteristics are more seen in people who are more likely to intervene. And then we wanted to see if knowledge levels, meaning, do you know more about mental health? Maybe you're a psychology major, maybe you're a biology major, maybe you just have a lot of people in your microsystem or your immediate circle that have these types of issues, so you know what they look like. So we wanted to see if knowledge as a variable would actually matter. And as you can see, service use and treatments of serious mental illness amongst US adults. So this graph, it shows that a lot of people need to use these things. However, inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, and even prescriptions are extremely expensive. So if we can help to tackle these issues before they turn into these long problems where they need years and years of helping with these issues, then why couldn't we? So the current study. As I said before, it acknowledges the importance of early intervention and the need for further study, obviously. So the methods and construction of the study that I did, it was researcher generated, and we broke it up into a few different things. We had the demographic form, and then they would go into kind of a test where it was just different symptoms of mental health disorders, and they kind of just had to do A, B, C, or D, seeing which one they were to them. And then we brought them into vignettes, which they would read a short story about someone suffering from a mental health disorder, match it with the mental health disorder that they thought they had, and then from a symptoms list, say which symptoms match that disorder to their own brains. So we just wanted to see if the skew was showing up with what they thought it was versus what the disorder actually presents as. So we went into this thinking that characteristics of people who are more likely to intervene would kind of show themselves. So we thought that knowledge would definitely play a role. So you know something about mental health. You have these stigmas. Will that actually create a more likelihood to intervene, and will that actually create you having better perceptions of mental health disorders? And then perceptions. You might know everything in the world, but if you don't think that that person's not going to kill you, if you don't think that that person is safe to talk to, you're not going to help them. So we wanted to see if that also mattered. So these were the demographics for my study. We had 98 people in our sample, which I thought was pretty good. And as you can see, they're pretty representative of the Marymount student body, which we were very excited about. As you can see, though, the only thing that was a bit skewed was major, because in my microsystem, it was a lot easier for me to find psychology majors than anyone else. But other than that, we were pretty representative. So hypothesis 1 and figure 1. So we hypothesized that people with a higher level of knowledge of mental health disorders would have more positive perceptions of people with mental health disorders. And thankfully, this was supported. So you can see our p-value here. It's relatively low, and it does show significance on the 0.05 level. For those of you that aren't psychology majors, this basically means that the instrument actually tested what it was supposed to, and that we found significance in it. So we were very excited in that. As you can see, the graph does show a skew here, which basically means that it outlines where it would go projected-wise. As you can see, it does drop off a little bit here with our expert level of knowledge. So we found that because it was such a low subject size for our experts, it was a little bit harder for them just because we didn't have the subject size. What this means, though, and because it was supported, we did find correlation, because we did a Pearson's correlation, that knowledge can actually correlate to predicting perceptions. Meaning that if you know this, if you know mental health, You won't see them as dangerous. You won't see them as people you have to fear. And ultimately, you'll be able to use your knowledge instead of the negative stigmas you're taught from American society or from the movies that we all like to watch or things like that. You'll actually see them as people, not just their disorder. So hypothesis 2 and figure 2. People with a higher level of knowledge of mental health disorders will be more likely to agree with early intervention tactics. We measured this by applying lifestyle, medical, and psychological interventions, so counseling, yoga, and medication towards mental illnesses, and that was part of our perceptions measure. Unfortunately, this was not supported. As you can see, our p-value with contrast to the 0.04 we had last time is actually 0.44, so much higher, and it's a straightforward line, which shows no correlation. Unfortunately, this kind of made us wonder a little bit as to what was going on, because you would think that they have the power of knowledge, they have these great perceptions, but they're not willing to help them still. So that's something that we're now tackling in my thesis research, just to figure out what is going on here. But unfortunately, this left a giant question mark to us, so we definitely need to do further research. So the summary of the study. As I said earlier, the purpose of this study was definitely to figure out if knowledge could mean anything in regards to mental health. And then in order to create a better perception, if we could have people use the knowledge instead of the stigmas to actually create social change. This study was a pilot study, so I'm in my senior year next year, and I'm doing my research on the same type of things, only involving more variables, and to see if relationships between, just say, me and a friend, or me and my child, or me and my mother, could actually create better chances of someone intervening, rather than just being a random person that you read about in a vignette, because we thought that the relationship aspect might play along with that. And ultimately, we just wanted to better understand the relationship that knowledge can have on perceptions of mental health and mental illness. So we did find significant data, as we talked about. And the conclusion, ultimately, we need further study on this. We need more people going at this with research. We need more people wondering what types of things can actually create that number that we didn't see before. And we need someone to stop realizing that stigmas are the things that rule our lives. And we need someone to actually go up and say, this is something that's significant, and this is something that can actually change your perceptions about something that is unfortunately so negative in our world today. So the implications of this study. In the beginning, I was really excited about the only implication being that I could call people out on their biases. And it kind of just unrailed itself as to saying knowledge is the key of overcoming negative stigmas of mental health. And the more knowledgeable people are, the more positive their perceptions are of mental health disorders. So this really does outline how we need to change education to actually not stigmatize these things. How we need to make sure that in schools we're talking about this. We're talking about mental health issues, regardless if it's schizophrenia or dissociative identity disorder. These are things we need to address. So as far as acknowledgements are concerned, I couldn't do this without Dr. Diaz-Asper. She's been with me for 2 years already, and I'm pretty sure she's read my research more than I even have, so thank you for that. And then my fiance, Jacqueline John, Dr. Carter, who told me in the very beginning, my freshman year, when I gave her this research project, oh yeah, this is what I want to do in one semester. And she was like, no, we're going to do this over many semesters. And that's kind of how that worked. Dr. Gamick, honors advisors. Anyone who participated in the survey, I couldn't have done it without you guys, so thank you. Marymount University Psychology Program, I see some of my professors that I've had here, and thank you so much for supporting us. And then obviously Marymount University as well. And those are all my references. All right.